Hi, welcome to This is My Architecture New Zealand. I'm Shalak and we have Martin from MATTR today.
Thanks for having me.
Martin, why don't we start with telling us about MATTR?
Yes, certainly. MATTR is a New Zealand-based company, and MATTR specializes in digital trust and verifiable data. We enable our customers to build global solutions in the verifiable credential and digital identity space. We also are engaged in standard committees in order to help build and shape these standards.
Right. Can you tell us about a use case, please?
Yes. So we've recently developed a verification capability for the New Zealand My Vaccine Pass, which we refer to as the Verifier API. So a user can actually get their credentials pre-verified by larger entities, for example, a workplace or a university or before an event.
Right. So having that credential is very important. What happens just before the event?
Yes. So, for example, let's use the example of a fitness club. So a fitness club user wants to use his credentials and show his credentials to the club. So the club collects the credential from the user beforehand and sends these credentials to our infrastructure. That can be either in the form of a screenshot, a PDF, or a photo. So this hits our infrastructure in a request. We verify this request using WAF and Shield Advanced in order to do sanity checks on the request. We're looking for certain headers, we drop some headers, and we look for a certain content length.
Security is first and foremost. I really noticed here you are using Shield Advanced. So whereas Shield Basic comes for free.
So we decided to use Shield Advanced because that gives us access to the Shield team. And they not only helped us in advance to configure Shield in a way that suits our needs, but also they can help us during drills, and they do rapid response whenever we might be under attack.
Yeah, Shield Response Team, free drills, and rapid response. That's all about Shield Advanced. So talking about scale and an event, you might be dealing with a lot of uncertainty of users. How did you make sure those potential users are not flagged as DDoS?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because when we launched this service, it obviously had quite some popularity. And so we had to make sure that the initial peak load was not flagged as a DDoS attack. So we carefully had to configure Shield and WAF in a way so that the traffic was interpreted in the right way.
Right. And when you talk about traffic, did you have to scale the infrastructure?
Certainly. So once the request hits our infrastructure, our microservices, which we deploy within EKS and within an AutoScaling group, we had to prime this infrastructure in order to handle a multitude of the requests that we were expecting. So we scaled it out, and then after the initial peak load, we verified multiple hundred thousands of passes within the first week. We were able to scale it back in order to accommodate normal workload.
That's cool. It is really good how you show in that you were able to scale out and scale back in during a peak event. And did AutoScaling help it?
Yes, certainly. So that obviously takes the pressure out of us to manually scale out and in.
Cool. And that is a really good use case of how did you cost optimize as well. Did you have any design principles while building this whole solution?
Yes. So we use Terraform as infrastructure as code. That helps us to keeps our agility and in order to reproduce these environments in multiple stages. And we can be sure that whenever we build this environment, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, Terraform and infrastructure as code. That is so cool. It is great to see how MATTR is using AWS to build a verifiable credentials and supporting lives of Kiwis.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching another episode of This is My Architecture.